There's only 4 teams left standing. What an absolutely bonkers weekend we just had in the NFL. It's the You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast. I'm your host, Eric Stenholm, along with my co-host, Joey Moore, and let's just dive right into it. Marquee games, probably the best weekend on the NFL calendar on a year-in, year-out basis. Some people like the Super Wild Card weekend since it's expanded to 6 games, but that 2-7 matchup's always, just okay. I feel like the divisional round is the best best week on the yearly NFL calendar, especially if your team's playing. But even if not, it just kind of feels like the best weekend of football, and this one did not disappoint, Joey.
I think it might even be better if your team's not playing. You don't have to worry about because if your team plays and loses like the Saturday or one of the Saturday games, like you don't even enjoy Sunday if you even watch. So
2019 Vikings lost to the Niners Saturday 1:30, and then I was done for the rest of the weekend. I was like, all right, I'm good. I don't need to watch any of this bullshit.
No, but for when your team goes 6-11 and has nothing to do with January, you get to enjoy it a little bit. It's a great weekend, especially when it finishes off with college football. So
that's a new thing that happened this year, and it's going to happen going forward, is instead of the college football playoff happening after wild card weekend or after the final week of the NFL season, it's now after the divisional round. Same thing's going to happen next year as this gets pushed further and further into January. Let's start in chronological order. Obviously, we got to start with the first game. The game not everybody's talking about because of the officiating and some of the things that happened in it rather than the quality of the football game. Obviously, the other 3 games were much better football games than this one. Houston had a shot in Kansas City. However, the Chiefs were aided yet again by a super favorable whistle, some pure luck. For me, the high-level point of this game and the thing that I think this game will be remembered for going forward is the Mahomes flop on the sideline. I think it's a turning point in his career. There's all these memes going around NFL Twitter, NFL Instagram right now that are about they're essentially Mahomes has now become what the Patriots were when Mahomes first faced them in 2018 in the AFC Championship, where the entire country's rooting against him. He's the most hated guy in the NFL. To think, say, 2 years ago when Kansas City played Philly in the Super Bowl and Mahomes got hurt at the end of the second quarter, miraculously comes out in the second half and just torches Philly and wins the Super Bowl. To think at that point that now, less than 2 years later, he may be the most hated man in the NFL, if not in all of sports, it's a really unbelievable turnaround.
Well, I already hated him because he beat my Niners and the Philly thing, he would beat him the last year. Anyways. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about the Chiefs and him maybe, popularity wise. And I was always still even him beating my teams, I was obviously he's already an all-time, I got no issue with him. I got an issue with seeing Kelsey on my TV screen 24/7, the other stuff, now Kayla's asking me when do the Chiefs play? You don't even ask when the Niners play.
What we disliked about the Chiefs and about Mahomes, I would say over the past 3 or 4 years, was the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing dominating the news, Brittany Mahomes and Jackson Mahomes just being really insufferable people that everybody hated. But there was never direct hatred of Patrick Mahomes because they were like, hey, this is probably the only guy maybe ever that will have a chance to get to Tom Brady's level of greatness, given how much success he's had this early on. I would say right now he probably has less than a 5% approval rating among NFL fans if you take out Kansas City. If you have the other 31 teams and you ask their fans, do you like or dislike Mahomes? I mean, it's just been an absolute nosedive. And to me, I was always 50-50 on him. That flop on the sideline that caused Troy Aikman to go, oh, come on ESPN, that was it for me. That was the turning point.
That was bad. I saw today somewhere, I was just scrolling on YouTube or something, that they were saying oh, Mahomes gets all the calls. Brady, they showed Brady a highlight of hits he took, just getting railed. I mean, like the hits on like ejected.
You
Like
see the
watching
Brady one against Buffalo where he runs along the right sideline and gets his helmet knocked off. I
yeah,
mean,
I'm like,
oh,
and it's crazy because I feel like I just thought of this, but does this feel like Tiger Phil a bit? Like like meaning like Brady was, I feel like he was hated playing partially. I think a big part of it was just not, I feel like any guy, you could take the most just like likable guy ever. If he wins like 7 out of 10 championships, like people are going to hate him. He's just tired of it. But like they also had like people that like felt like 2-3 cheating things. Belichick just seemed like a miserable guy in a hoodie on this. Like that kind of, but doesn't it feel like Brady's like, well, he's all Mr. Instagram now? Like he's more, and like Mahomes was like, oh, like I'm the.
it's
Now
the
it's like
there's a thought that, and they call this just like the end of career bump or whatever. For LeBron, for Michael Jordan, this happened. I think for Brady, I think for Tiger. Basically, all the people who disliked you when you were like in your prime and winning all those championships, when you continue to play long after you probably could have retired and there's nothing left to accomplish, I think people then go, okay, now I respect your greatness and I like you. I don't know if that'll happen with Mahomes, but that's what my theory has always been is like, okay, especially a guy like LeBron, who I would say for the middle 8 to 10 years of his career was just hated by the general public. I would say his approval rating is probably in the 60s or 70s at this point. And it's just because people are like, hey, every game he plays could be his last. Tip of the cap.
Yeah, I don't know. But like for him, Mahomes, I've seen him, I've not actually seen him, but watched him on TV with like some of like the off-season golf stuff. I don't know. He seems like a guy you could hang out with. Seems like regular guy. But that thing on the sideline, just I don't know. It's just like he's getting for watch him too. He's got a little Russell Wilson in the sense like, oh, we got him, and then he's like falling, touchdown, and you're like, oh my god, just somebody just take his head off.
That's what you're saying as a neutral fan at home, not as a Texans fan or a Bills fan. You're at home just going like, somebody's got to cold cock this guy and just knock him out and be like, hey, we will stand for the Kermit voice and the crazy wife and the brother who's nuts and the dad who got a DUI and Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and Andy Reid and all your stupid State Farm commercials. We will stand for all of that. But we will not stand for faking an injury on the sideline so that you can try to get 15 more yards. Like, that's the line that people draw in the sand, and he crossed it yet again. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, right.
Anything you post on social media about the Chiefs, they now show a photoshopped or AI video or a picture of Mahomes and the ref exchanging jerseys after the game. And it's just like, that's like the meme right now, and I see it everywhere. Anytime the Chiefs get a call, anytime there's just something remotely controversial with Mahomes, I see it everywhere. And let's talk about the game just a little bit before we move on to the other ones. Houston was game in this one. I thought they had a chance. I really did, until a couple calls did go their way in the second half. CJ Stroud acquitted himself well. And I texted you this early on in the game. DeMeco Ryan
killed him.
Kicker did kill him. DeMeco Ryans can coach a defense, man. That defense was awesome in the first half.
Yeah, I don't know. Will Anderson had a pretty good weekend. Jared Verse had a great weekend, other than not winning. But yeah, they're front. I mean, they're front, and it's just like you saw it across the whole league. Like it was a big weekend for football, meaning like this air raid spread it out. Didn't like the teams that are on are like, obviously Jayden Daniels, the quarterback, but like Buffalo got this far because they ran the ball. Philly, I told it to you. Kansas City can
Baltimore.
And it's also play defense.
Yeah.
Like, you have to play defense. Detroit caught up with you. I mean, 45 like it was nothing. Washington put up. Don't turn the ball. It's just like simple. I think I saw you said Hurts won with like 128 yards passing. I think Josh Allen won with like 127.
All 4 teams that won were outgained by more than 100 yards by their opponent, which is just like, don't turn the ball over and cause a couple turnovers and you're going to win in the NFL. It doesn't have to be fancy. And it's like, you're right. It's a total shift from, you would look at, say, the 2011 through 2014, playoff games, and it just be, Matt Schaub threw for 464 in a loss, or Roethlisberger threw for 501 and won by 2 points. Like, this isn't that kind of league anymore. Like, guys aren't putting up the gaudy numbers. It's about running and stopping the run and rushing the passer. So
I think I was either talking about this or with my dad or thinking about it, but football has a good way of correcting itself when trends get out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at baseball, until you get to like the postseason, and even some of these are still like this, it's a walk, home run, or strikeout.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like the nuance of the game is going, especially the regular season. And then basketball, I mean, I think part of like why it's a bit of a turnoff for some people is like some of these teams are jacking up 53s a game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you're not Steph Curry. Like this isn't, and it's brick. And it's like, it's kind of made it, I don't know what turns those around. I don't like, like, does Shaq come in there and make somebody like defend the post again? I don't like baseball. Is someone going to stop talking about long jangle and like hit the ball to the other field, get the runner over in a game that's being played like in May?
Yeah.
You don't have to wait till October to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But like football, you spread them all out. And then like you see some of these teams, like you spread them out, you start to put 5-6 DBs on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well the smart coaches will go like, now you're going to get hammered with Saquon, Derrick Henry. Detroit had 2 good running backs.
Mm-hmm.
Like Chiefs, Pacheco can, like all these teams can put 2-3 tight ends out there and say, okay, we're going to play in a phone booth, and it's working.
Mm-hmm. Because in the NFL, it's always someone looking for the ability to zag, and then in the NBA and MLB, people are just following the trend. And in the NFL, everyone's looking for that opportunity to change it. And I don't think there's any team in basketball that's like, you know what? We're going to shoot no threes a game. We're going to just play low post basketball. Like you just don't see.
You have all these guys, the Excel wizards, who's like, hey man, I got a degree in something, and it basically tells me that 3 is bigger than 2. So the more threes we hit, the more likelihood we're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And like football, you see that with like 4th down, going for it or not. But like, it's like you can't just throw the ball every play.
We'll talk about this later, but for me, the whole analytics of when to go for it and not is one thing. For me, the analytics is kicking versus punting versus going for it, because that D'Amico Ryan situation where he kicked the 55-yarder.
I said the kicker killed him. That was, I don't know why
you and I agreed that was the 3rd best option. I would have punted, or I would have gone for it maybe. I never would have kicked the field goal there. So like those kind of situations are somewhere where analytics has to come in and help. But I agree with what you're saying. The zag is the NFL thing right now. And speaking of that, how about a team that came into the season with a 6.5 win total that is now in the NFC Championship, that did the ultimate zag of hiring Dan Quinn, a guy who was known for the 28-3 collapse in the Super Bowl in 2016, drafting a quarterback in Jayden Daniels, who, yes, Heisman Trophy winner, but a lot of people were like, hey, he's extremely old for an NFL draft pick. He's played college football for 6 years. Signed a bunch of guys off the scrap heap. I would say only Bobby Wagner is a true stud that they signed in the offseason. Literally everybody else, Ertz, Eckler, all these veterans, just a scrap heap roster. And look at this, man. They beat the Lions by 14 on the road in the divisional round. Probably game of the year, I would say, in terms of just like, what it means for the NFL going forward. Detroit has lost both of its coordinators. Washington is now 1 win away from the Super Bowl. He's trying to be Jayden Daniels, the first quarterback ever to start the Super Bowl as a rookie. What a story and what a game that was.
Yeah, I mean, boy, they turned around quickly. I saw something today that like their season is like identical to the 2021 Bengals season. Like quarterback LSU, Heisman Trophy winner. They won the same amount of games the year before, like the same record. And so, like, it was like, okay, this is creepy. Yeah, I mean, what do they not have right now? If I had any like stones, I would have actually said they're gonna like. I I thought they could go into Detroit with how many injuries they had on defense. Still, I mean, I did not expect Detroit to turn the ball over 5 times.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, the fact it was even that close and they turned it was 5-0, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Washington turned 5-0, and you still only lost by what, 14, 13?
Mhm. Yeah, 45-31 with a -5 turnover
Like, it's
differential for the
kind of
line.
crazy. But yeah, I mean, Detroit, they're going to lose both coordinators, and it sounds like they might even lose some position coaches because
Mhm.
both of those guys are going to take guys they know. And I love Dan Campbell, but we're going to see how good of a coach he is because Nick Sirianni was loved until he lost both coordinators and everything went south until they got this year. But
Yeah, he made well. That's the thing is like what we should. Last year we were calling for Sirianni's head because we were like, this guy can't coach. Look at this team. Well, he brings in Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio, and I mean, they've been absolutely tremendous. Can Dan Campbell do the same thing? There's not a lot of names out there that are, that big of an upgrade from what he had this year. So tough situation for the Lions going forward. Obviously, the Goff. Did he have a concussion or not is one of the big storylines for this one. My boy Teddy Bridgewater, one of my favorite players of all time, came in out of retirement into the playoffs. I was kind of hoping he got to play the rest of the game. Really, he only did that trick play reverse to Jameson Williams that led to the touchdown. But big story in this one is obviously Jayden Daniels. It now has to be said he's probably the best ever rookie quarterback. You look at the other 5 to make the conference title game as a rookie, and they were all carried by their defense. You're looking at Roethlisberger, Sean King, Brock Purdy, obviously. I mean, he was excellent, but that was the Niners, I believe.
Was one of those Russ, too?
Number 1 ranked defense. No, Russ was in his second year, and then there was one other one who I'm forgetting from.
I don't know. He didn't make the championship game, but I mean, the first one that came to my mind was C.J. Stroud last year.
Yeah, and he made it to the second round with a team that I believe went 2-15 the year before. So super impressive. But the point that was made is the other 5 quarterbacks to have made it to this point have had defense on the other side of the ball ranked in the top 3 in the NFL. And the Commanders are the 18th ranked defense, and he's in the conference championship game. What a year for that dude. I mean, if you're starting a franchise right now, other than maybe Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, this
might take him above one of those guys, given age.
Yeah.
I mean,
just insane. And as a mostly Vikings and 49ers podcast, I look at that game and I go, oh my God, I think that was the Lions' one shot. Like maybe they'll be back next year.
That's why, like, and again, I did it again. I did it with all the teams, but I was like, let's watch some Detroit Lions fan post game.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they're still like, well, just, we're gonna be back next year. I'm like, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it was even bigger last year. There was like, we're so happy to be here. Like, obviously a way to, go out against the Niners in that game. And I'm like, I don't think you guys understand what a humongous missed opportunity this is.
Yes.
Like, ignoring the fact that you blew a huge lead to just, I mean, again, we're looking at coaches. They're going to have a coaching exodus out of that building.
Mm-hmm. And the fulcrum of everything is not only Dan Campbell, but is Jared Goff, who,
I was just about to say that,
as a playoff quarterback, other than the game against the Niners last year, not a lot of success.
It just, he took over the city. Maybe it hadn't been done since like Eminem. Like, I mean, saw the video of that like kid got out of surgery or something and was just yelling, Jared Goff, Jared. I'm like, this is out of control. I'm like, the shine might wear off a bit. Because if you watch that game and you watch Matthew Stafford anytime in the last couple of years, you can't tell me Detroit upgraded. I mean, who's saying that? I mean, Detroit's trying to tell themselves that.
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
Fully healthy Stafford is so much better than fully healthy Goff.
And to be fair, Goff, he's fully healthy Stafford's better than 90+% of the guys in the league.
Yeah.
But to have home field again, 2 home games in your building to get to the Super Bowl, I said it on the podcast last week. It's not easy being like the favorite. Like it again, I'm not going to say like poor that, like you earned it. Like, there's no excuses. But like, it's different. Last year they got to be kind of, we're playing with house money. Like,
They were the 3 seed. They got lucky in that they got to face Tampa in the second round at home instead of having to go on the road to Dallas. This year, it's like you got to win your 2 games, and they couldn't get past before the playoffs. I said the worst team in the playoffs is Denver. Second worst might have been the Commanders, and now look. I mean, they couldn't. They got walloped by them.
To be fair to them, they were hit with a rash of injuries on defense. I mean, their offense still did, even with 5 turnovers, put up 31 points.
Mm.
So, but again, I mean, no one cared about the injuries when they won the Week 18 game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so you beat Minnesota in that same building.
Mm-hmm.
Could have easily beaten Washington. But it's just, again, you don't know. What you don't know, like, when you're going to get back there. That's why
classic NFL.
Yeah, that's why, like, the Niner game. I mean, it hurts the Super Bowl. It hurts then, but like, even like the next year when you realize, like, damn, it's like Week 8 and you're 3-5, and like, wow,
that was it.
Like,
yeah. With this group, that was it. And I feel like with the Lions, they had that, whatever it was, 9-7-1 season. Then they followed it up by winning the division. Then they followed it up by being the number 1 seed. You don't have sustained success in this NFL for that many seasons with what I would call a C+ B- quarterback situation. Like, that only happens for a couple of years if you have like a perfect roster, as we saw with the Niners. Eventually, you have to turn it over. And I mean, they're losing everybody, so that'll be really interesting to watch, especially for fans of this pod. The Philly game, they talked about early on, hey, the snow is coming in the second half. I feel like this game was very close to becoming an instant classic there at the end. First half, classic Philly, run the ball, don't turn it over. They go into the half with the lead. I was really impressed with, I would say, like, the second half performance from Stafford is probably the best quarterback play we've seen the entire postseason, especially that final 2 drives. Like, I don't know if I've seen anybody look that good this postseason other than that. Would you say for Stafford that was probably the best you've seen?
Yeah, I'm probably, but he's been really good. I mean,
in the snow with, Cooper Kupp can't play. He's 106 years
old.
Like,
yeah, I'm like, oh, Cooper Kupp catch a pass. I'm like, this guy had like one of the greatest seasons ever.
Yeah,
like for a receiver, like 2-3 years. And it's like and I read something today. He might get cut. I'm like, what?
Well, he was non-existent the last.
I know, but he was like, it's not because I don't know. Interesting, but yeah, no, I mean.
So Barkley rips off the gigantic run, starts hitting his helmet, and
I just don't think Philly's better than. I mean, the Rams probably should have won.
That's what I was going to say. It's a seminal moment for Philly. Collinsworth was crowning him at that point. He was like, "Wow, this is going to go down as a huge moment." Saquon in Philly, whatever. Immediate Rams touchdown. I think it was 6 plays and a minute.
I went to go do laundry.
Yeah, you were like,
"Oh, was like, oh my god!" They're like. And I was like, "Oh, they got the
6
ball
plays,
back."
70 yards.
I was like, "Oh, they got the." I come back up, and I'm like, "Oh, the Rams got the ball. Oh, only down 6. They probably got the ball like at their own 20 or something." Like, no, they're at the 15.
Yeah.
Huh?
An unbelievable sequence. So Stafford leads him down there using none of his timeouts. Down there in a minute 50, 70 yards, touchdown. Next drive, Saquon for 6, and you're like, "Oh, this thing's over." Next play action. Hurts takes the worst sack of the NFL season on a play action play, loses like 12 yards. Saquon runs into the line, punt. Immediate Puka Nacua like 45-yard catch to put him in the red zone. And I'm thinking, Stafford's going to pull this off. This is going to be the biggest moment of his career. I know he's won a Super Bowl, but being down 13 points with 4 minutes left in the snow with a dome team and pulling that off, it's unheard of. And then the guy who I would pick for Jack and the Bum of the Week, frickin' Kevin Dotson, happened. The right guard. So I want to talk about this just because this is the story of the game to me. Jalen Carter made 2 basically game-winning plays at the end of this game. Both of them
on. That is red flags in the draft on Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this guy went to Philly.
the post game interview. Apparently, he said something along the lines of Jalen Carter said something along the lines of, "At some point, we were gonna maul 69," and I was like, "Damn!" Like everyone on earth who watched that game, because I was texting you, "Who the hell is this guy?" So he gives up a sack, then the next play he is so terrified he jumps and false starts. And then the next play, he gets mauled over, and Stafford has to throw a horrible pass, and the game is over. So he'd be my Jack in the Bum of the week, a guy who basically all game was getting beat like he stole something, and then in the three biggest plays of the game just gets completely dog walked by Jalen Carter. So if I'm a Rams fan, I go, hey, hell of a season. We fought hard. We almost won this game, but the biggest story to me was that your right guard cost you a spot in the NFC Championship to host it. I mean,
well, it looked like on one of them he didn't even look the right way.
mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't even like a physical thing. He just like didn't even know. And he looked like the only guy on the line that didn't know what like the protection was.
Yeah, absolutely killer. But the story for you was Jalen Hurts. I mean, not only was he fighting through his concussion symptoms, he then apparently hurt like his knee or something.
Well, he had sacked or tackled somewhere, and it's like I'm like, you watch the replay, and like, is that his ankle? Is it his knee? It's like it could be like a couple things got. He's not healthy. He's not good, and he's not healthy. So
that's what I said. Is if he was in Madden right now, he'd be a 70 overall because like his big skill set he doesn't have anymore if he's hurt.
Even to add to your Madden thing, it'd be like in Madden Ultimate Team when you get a sweet player because you see their name, but it's like one of those free cards that they give you, and like it's not the 99 rated Justin Jefferson. It's like the free 71 Justin Jefferson. That's what he is.
Yeah,
he's a free 70 rated Jalen Hurts right now, and some of it's I'm sure due to the injury, but he hasn't been like.
I mean, massive break for them to win the game, but going into next week, if Hurts is not, I would say 85+% ready, they might.
Washington's going to put up some points if the weather's good.
Mm-hmm. Forecast right now says not going to snow, not going to rain. It'll just be pretty cold, high 20s. So I'm like, everything is shaping up for Washington here in that one. Here's the thing, though, is we've been shitting on Philly nonstop basically for the last 18 months. They're one win away from the Super Bowl. We might lose on betting against them yet again. I mean, nobody's been more wrong about Philly.
I think I said it a few times. I was wrong. I thought they'd missed the playoffs. Again, it almost seems like it's very Philly thing that for a team with so much noise, like they seem to somewhat thrive in the noise.
You see that Colin Cowherd thing where he talked about the Philadelphia Eagles are like an Italian family. Like there's lots of yelling, but they all get along and it somehow works. I'm like, that is such a good comparison.
Again, I don't know of any bouncer other than Big Dom, and they're the only team who's like in fight on the sideline with fans. Niners had one. Debo punched a long snapper, but that's fine. We don't have a bouncer. If we had like Big Chad or Big Tanner or whatever, maybe it would prevent it. I don't know. Or if Jake Moody would have made some kicks.
Yeah, that's the story of the season. So yeah, the Eagles move on in a game that I thought Stafford was an A+, and they could have snuck in, and that would have been a hell of a story for the Rams, but it is the Eagles hosting the NFC Championship. And then the big one, the night game on Sunday, I said probably the best game of the weekend, one of the more anticipated games in recent NFL history. The two guys who were going to finish 1 and 2 in the MVP, Allen versus Mahomes, or Allen versus Jackson, sorry. And I mean, Jackson was just not good. I mean, critical fumble, critical interception. He said after the game, I got to take care of the ball. It's on me.
I was like, you better say it because you can't say we got to stop turning the ball over. I'd be like, you know what? I've been like probably extra critical of Lamar, maybe in a shocking twist of events. I actually thought he was good Sunday. Like it actually looked like he didn't feel the pressure. He looked normal. He
was excellent as a drop back thrower.
He was as good as I've ever seen him, just body language, everything in the playoffs, ever.
Yeah.
Despite that. The fumble, like the pick, it's going to happen, maybe crossed up, maybe bad. To expect every game you're not going to maybe have like a turnover is because then what happens if you do turn the ball over? Like really good players who never turn the ball over sometimes turn the ball over, and like, what are you going to do? Like, oh my god, we're so screwed. We got to change like the whole like it'll
no, because then you play scared. You have to play the way you play.
But the fumble, is like that can't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I read this is like his fourth. I could be totally wrong. Something like, but it's like his fourth playoff game where he's had an interception and a fumble. Like the picks are like, why do you continue to fumble the ball? And they're not even, from what I understand, they're not like running. Like he just the snap. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the snap wasn't that bad, was it?
The snap was off to the left a little bit, but he caught it and gathered himself, and then was ready to throw the ball.
He like dropped it.
Yeah, he went to juke and kind of just like put the ball on the ground, like palmed it onto the ground. And I was like, and then of all people, Von Miller, who's like just collecting a paycheck, picks it up and almost runs it the distance. I saw there's this stat for it's like Pro Football Reference's version of WAR for NFL players. So like in their system, anything above like a 10 is Pro Bowl, anything above 15 is MVP caliber. He was a 0 this year in 15 games, Von Miller. And I was like, I didn't even realize he was still playing. And then he picks it up and runs it the other way. And you're like, oh, man, he was Super Bowl MVP a decade ago. There he is. But story of the game is going to be Lamar's fumble. And obviously, Jackson.
Hell of a drive. Hell of a drive.
Jackson did everything he could, but the Andrews drop and the Andrews fumble is what everybody's going to remember from this game. So, you hate to bring that up because apparently, Andrews, by all accounts, a great guy after the game, taking all the responsibility, great teammate, but he cost them.
You know what? If I'm the Ravens, I'm like, catch the damn ball.
Yeah. He's the franchise leader in touchdowns and receptions, probably one of the fan favorites.
It might be a blessing that it was him who dropped it.
Right.
Because if that's a guy who's like doesn't have a secure spot, like his career might be over.
Like Bateman or Aguilar, one of those guys. Oh, it'd be just a witch hunt. But because it's like their best ever tight end, you're like, make a play, man. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But there's your final four. Let's get into the championship preview. We start with the Sunday 12 o'clock Fox game. Washington at Philly. Philly favored by 6. Never in a million years would anyone have put the commies in this game before the season, but here they are. All-time great story. In my opinion, the Eagles are going to get absolutely nothing from the quarterback position, but my question is, does it even matter? Like Barkley is in the running for having maybe the best individual season by any player ever. He's on pace for like almost 3,000 yards if you include the playoffs. The dude is a beast. Can Philly just win this game on running game alone?
No, I still will be shocked. I just I know I'm rooting for Washington just because I feel he's just exhausting. But it's quite impressive how far they get with, like you said, with how little they're getting from the quarterback, the passing game in general.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if I was Washington or whoever they're playing,
8-man boxes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, leave these guys one-on-one. Like they will complete some.
Mm-hmm.
But like you load it enough to where like they will always default to running the ball. And like you make them choose to throw it more than they would like to, especially if Hurts isn't 100%. And you just can't let Saquon, like, you can't.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm watching, I'm like, put 7, 8 guys, 9 guys in the box.
Tell Bobby Wagner, hey, you're one of the 3 to 5 best linebackers of all time. You call this game. If you want to put 8, 9 guys in the box and run blitz the whole time, do it. Like, you just make Hurts beat you because, like, yes, A.J. Brown is excellent. Devontae Smith is excellent. Dallas Goedert is excellent. I don't think they can get him the ball consistently. So what does it matter?
Exactly. Okay, they might have, like, a drive or, like, even a second drive. Like, the thing is, like, Philly's defense is so much better than it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, and it's not Detroit. So, like, I'm assuming Washington with Daniels is going to throw score 30, 35 points? They probably aren't.
I would say, 24-ish.
Just
But
24
that might be
get it
enough.
done.
Yeah. I think if they get to 24, they win the game. I think if they are held under 20, they're going to lose. I think it's going to be one of those, slobber knocker type games, because that's what every Philly game is. Even the game against Green Bay, which ended up being low scoring, that was more on Love just couldn't punch it in the red zone. This one, if Jayden Daniels plays even half as good as he has the last two playoff games, they're going to get to 24. I mean, he's unbelievable. And he doesn't turn the ball over. You look at his stats, including the playoffs. When does a rookie play like that? That dynamic, throws the ball downfield, runs the ball, doesn't fumble, doesn't throw picks. Like, oh my God. He is an absolute monster. I lean towards probably at Washington +6, something like Philly 24-20 final score. That's what I lean. But you're definitely more on the train of, hey, Washington winning the game outright is a possibility.
Oh, it's absolutely a possibility. Will it happen? I don't know. I just, it almost is like a Kansas City thing. Like it's if Philly just, this is normal for them. I don't know. This is the way they win games. It's comfortable, even as exhausting as uncomfortable it is for.
And the one time that Philly in their entire franchise history actually won a Super Bowl, it was with a quarterback that I think going into the playoffs, they thought we're going to get nothing from him and we have to win.
Like he was playing so much better than, Jalen Hurts is right now.
Right. And they had to play a different style.
Almost 500 yards in the Super Bowl.
It's almost like Barkley is the quarterback. Like he is so far and away the best player on that team and the most important player on that team right now that the quarterback in essence almost doesn't matter if he's actually able to like run the ball. Like that's the biggest problem I had with the Rams is it's coming. How do you give up 203 to Barkley if you know that that's the only, especially in the second half where it was clear Hurts had no ability to throw or run? Why are you not putting 9 guys in the box all day? And maybe they were just getting torched anyway because they got the Avengers up there blocking for them, as you always say. But we lean Washington +6. I think Philly probably wins the game.
I would absolutely do Washington +6. Will I say they win the game?
It's close. It's not as close as the other one, but it is close. This one is close. Kansas City -1.5 in the night game on CBS, hosting Buffalo. I call this the America versus Mahomes game. Like we said it last year in all these different games where it was like everybody wanted the Chiefs' opponent to win, not necessarily because of Mahomes, but mostly because of all the other stuff surrounding Kansas City. The league has turned on Mahomes, and the league already hated almost everything to do with Kansas City, but now the one thing that most of us still respected there is gone. Buffalo is America's team. I really think Buffalo can run the ball and rush the passer, but like, again, I asked the question, does any kind of analysis of this game matter when it's Buffalo against both Kansas City and the refs?
In a weird way, I'm more confident Washington beats Philly than Buffalo beats Kansas City, which is interesting. Because I think Buffalo is a much better team. Yeah, I just, the whole bigger question is like, if not now, when? Does Buffalo, Baltimore, Cincinnati, any of these teams?
This is their 5th playoff meeting, Allen and Mahomes, and he's 0-4. Like, if not now, it may never happen. I believe Brady beat Manning the first 3, and then Manning finally won on the 4th try. If this is the 5th try and Allen doesn't win it, when is it ever going to happen? Buffalo's a better team than Kansas City. The question is, will the refs get it right?
Once, but that was in Buffalo, I think.
Yeah. And this one also forecasted for no snow, just, cold weather. And Buffalo obviously plays very well in the cold. If this was a game where I knew everything was above board, I would absolutely pick Buffalo. They're a better football team. They've been much better at running the ball. If you saw Kelsey last week being probably the only, offensive spark for them, dude can't move. Like, the reason he was so open and rumbling everywhere is because teams have realized, hey, this guy is probably the slowest, position player in the NFL right now. So we can give him some space. And then he ended up, pulling some, magic.
Like 100 yards.
Yeah, he had 100 yards. That one where he had like a 50-yard catch, I was like, how is nobody tackling him? Like, the guys are running right past him trying to tackle him. It's almost like he's so slow it surprises them. And then they like dive for an area that he's not going to get to. It's just crazy because, like, obviously this all sounds so anti-Kansas City. I think they're going to win the game. Like, my pick is Kansas City. And it's not necessarily because of anything matchup-wise. It's just like I know they're going to get the right bounces. That's just how it works.
I think they're just. I think I had a. It's such an interesting game because I thought Houston outplayed them for at least part stretches of it. I don't know. If not now, when?
Yeah, this has got to be it for Allen and especially for McDermott, who, like, I mean, to get a team that I would say probably has the worst defense he's had there since he started to this point. If he doesn't win this one, it's like, man, like, what do? You just keep trotting the same everything out yet again just to lose again in January. Like, they got to get this one. You can't lose to Mahomes 5 times in 6 seasons. Like, it'd just be brutal. We're pulling for you, Buffalo. Let's go to Joey's Jack in the Bum of the Week. The candidates, I mean, there's so few games that, like, everybody already knows what we're going to put here. Mahomes and the refs after that nonsense. Kevin Dotson, the aforementioned right guard for the Rams, who was the worst player in that game and cost him the game. And then Aaron Glenn, I think, kind of deserves some flack here. He gave up 45 points. I know he's got an undermanned defense, but it's probably the biggest football game played in the city of Detroit maybe ever. I mean, we're talking since the 1940s and 50s, and to just completely lay an egg like that, I wouldn't want him as my head coach. This guy who, yes, he schemed up a great game against the Vikings, but his defenses in Detroit have been okay, not great. So he laid an egg in the biggest moment. I don't know if I want to give that guy the keys like the Jets are doing. But obviously there's one big candidate here for Jack in the Bum of the Week, a la Joseph Osai, Jacoby Myers, a new entry in the pantheon of Jack in the Bums of the Week.
Yeah. No, this week, Bum of the Week. Jack in the Bum of the Week, Mark Andrews. Just got to catch the ball. Catch the ball. Good throw, especially, the one on the 2-pointer. But then the fumble, I just can't do it. Just cannot do it.
When you're a tight end in your 30s, don't try to juke. Just get down.
One of these plays was enough to get him a nomination.
Mm-hmm.
2, it's unanimous. 1 vote, unanimous. Bum. Catch the ball. But yeah, like I said, it might be a good thing it was him and not like, I'm trying to think of like the Niners. Can you imagine if that's like Ronnie Bell
or Ricky Pearsall?
But even him, like, he's a first rounder. Also, assuming this season, like, he got shot. Like, people are gonna be like, "Am I really gonna send hate mail? This guy was shot."
No, this is like if it was Kittle, where it's like, what are you gonna do?
Like, trust me, I'd be like, George, mother loving, catch the effing ball. But then I'd be like, we'll see you next year. This was like Ronnie Bell, maybe like one of the rookies like Jacob Cowing or something. He like, go bag my groceries. Like, get off the team. Go away.
Mm-hmm.
But
brutal.
Yeah.
Just brutal. It had to be him. I mean, nobody had a bigger impact on his team winning or losing a game this weekend, and it was Mark Andrews. It had to be Jack in the Bum of the Week for the divisional round. Let's go to the You Like That picks of the week. We're 4-5-1 in the postseason. We went 1-2-1 last week. We got the push with the Rams. We lost with Baltimore and Detroit, and then we won with Kansas City. Pretty simple here. Joey likes Washington +6. I like Washington +6. That's the pick. If they stop the run, they're going to win the game. If they give up, 200 plus rushing yards to Barkley and Hurts and Gainwell and whatever, they're going to lose the game. But I feel confident that a Bobby Wagner-led defense can get the job done here. I don't know if they win the game, but I think they keep it within the 6. We take Washington +6. And then Kansas City -1.5. It's 2 teams against 1. Buffalo stands no chance, in my opinion. You got KC and you got the refs. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment, but I really do believe it. Like, until I see a fairly officiated game involving the Kansas City Chiefs, I'll take them as a small home underdog. So there it is. You like that picks of the week for the championship round. Washington +6 and Kansas City -1.5. Joey, it's time for your Feels Great Baby, your wildest take you feel best about currently. It's hard to come up with these when there's only 4 games a week. You got anything off the top of your head?
I don't know if I feel great about it, but I wanted to like mention, I think the Niners might get screwed with like the defensive coordinator. Not screwed like in the sense like, no, they did this to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think Robert Saleh is going to get the Jaguars job.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's already leaked that they would like to make him they would, I don't know if they like it, but they would make him the highest paid defensive or coordinator in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he takes that job, like really only other guy Jeff Ulbrich, former Niner linebacker, who's like he was hired as Atlanta's, is Brandon Staley, who was on the staff as an assistant to what I don't even know his
assistant to the regional manager. Yeah.
Yeah. He was just vibes guy, I guess. Water bottles filled, juice high on the bench. Like that's it. And I'm like,
Steve Wilkes is available.
I'm just like, that's going to be a tough sell. Like, I think the Niners have done well, when it was Robert Saleh, when they promoted from within.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sorensen was just a step too far.
I think that was, and it's like, I think it's clear they do need philosophical changes. I don't think hiring unless it's Robert Saleh, because like one thing is like been a head coach, like it worked. I think it would help them get an understanding of like their actual personnel, because I think no matter who I think they need to get a lot better defensively than what they think they are. But like, I don't know. Like, are they just really?
They could be left without a chair at the end of this. Yeah.
And same thing with special teams coordinator. Like I heard it came out and then it was like denied, but like it got out some. I mean, they're thinking about it sometimes that they were gonna hire the guy the Sorensen as a special teams coordinator. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, let's get some, real people in the building. I mean, I don't want to like crap on but what I'm kind of learning or just understanding about the team is like they have their football philosophies. What Kyle and John, mostly Kyle, he's the boss, and like it's hard for them to stray away from it. Like they have this scheme they run. Well, obviously his offense is his dad's baby. Yeah, that's never changing. Defensively, they've always operated the same type of like rush with 4, like cover. They rarely blitz, but when they've blitzed recently, it's royally backfired. Yeah. And it even goes to like their drafting and where they allocate resources. Like I've been saying, their offensive line's been whatever between like poor and average is. I don't want to say just below average, but like that's what it's been at best. And that's with a Hall of Fame left tackle. They never draft. I mean, they have drafted the guy who made the all-rookie team offensive line this year, but like you have a decent right guard that's not moving the needle. Like you passed on Tristan Wirfs to draft Javon Kinlaw. Like they just don't believe in that. I don't know. It's just
you're starting to see what you're saying is the organizational philosophy of Shanahan with a rigid, dogmatic system for both the defense and the offense, and like we draft pass rushers, we do not draft offensive linemen.
I think it's him and John, but I put mostly on Kyle because he's the boss, and it's just like how you hear teams. Like, especially in this area, like with the Raiders, like the teams would get really sensitive when it gets in the media, like you trash the team. So like they don't like people who trash like the East Coast, whatever. Like you can you know, be as tough as you want it, like, and they'll take it. Like New York media is tough.
Yeah.
And like, but some teams aren't that like they want nothing to do with bad press.
Right.
It's not apples to apples, but like I feel like the Niners, like they don't want anyone in the building who doesn't challenge their football philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to a point that it has worked. I mean, you could say it nearly won them 2 Super Bowls. I would say you lost 2 Super Bowls, and you were not good this year. So, how do you get there?
I mean, to me, as an outside
The
observer,
point is that let's get some other ideas here with how you allocate resources and maybe some schematics.
Outside observer with no stake in the game, your hires have been excellent it's just you got to pick the right guy. Okay, Saleh, great defensive coordinator, number 1 defense. DeMeco Ryans, great defensive coordinator, number 1 defense. Wilkes, not a good hire, not a good head coach, not a good defensive coordinator. Sorensen, too green, too young. The fact that he was fired as defensive coordinator and yet they wanted to keep him on the staff, that tells you he has no job prospects across the NFL. So it's like if you're going to bring in a guy that's either in Kyle's system or completely outside of Kyle's system, it just needs to be the right guy. Like they brought in Wilkes, who I would say is probably the biggest departure from all the other guys that have been there in the Kyle era. And the dissension in the locker room was gigantic. Like people did not like that guy and were ready to throw him under the bus. So it's like, I don't know, if you hire from within, it's got to be the right guy. If you hire, say there's a big name coordinator that becomes available, not Vic Fangio, but someone along those lines.
The problem with losing Saleh and then DeMeco is that the guys that were more than qualified left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm like, let's promote DeMeco Ryans. Okay. Well, who's the linebackers coach now? Anyone know? I don't know. Like, my point is like, you eventually, like Detroit, are they going to promote from within with all these guys leaving?
It's going
probably not. It's just
you're
going to be so thin.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to bring other guys in somehow, and it's like
I kind of like the idea.
It's hard to bring in guys on the outside who would have the same philosophy. They more than likely have some different philosophies,
mm-hmm.
and they're not super comfortable with that.
I like trying crazy stuff if you're an organization that can handle it. So, for instance, if Dallas hires Dion, that's a disaster because, like, that's just a tire fire organization that's not going to be able to handle that kind of media and that big a personality. But if you're the Niners and you have an opening at defensive coordinator and it's musical chairs and you get left without a chair, call Richard Sherman, call Ronnie Lott, call whoever, just some big name guy and see if he can hack it rather than just like last year promoting Sorensen.
I would love to have Richard Sherman on the staff. The coordinator,
that's what I'm saying is like if you're gonna take a swing, take a swing.
Do you want to get paid? Like you can stay at your house. You don't have to be like, you have like, oh, he's a special advisor. What does he do? He just shows up. Like, put him on the payroll. Have him, give him coaching. Like, give him the Nike stuff on the sideline if he wants to. Like, but like, is it his buddy Evans KJ Wright? He's on the staff.
Yeah.
Is he a guy? Is he the next DeMeco? Is he like, Jim Harbaugh? I don't know if you said this to him. Jim Harbaugh in LA's got Navarro Bowman on the staff.
Yeah. Yep. That would be an unbelievable hire.
Okay.
Yeah. Patrick Willis, what's he up to?
Do I actually know if they can call a defense on game day? No clue. But
to me, in my opinion, if you're a Hall of Fame caliber player on defense, or especially if you're a middle linebacker like Patrick Willis or Navarro Bowman, of course you can call a defense. I mean, you called a defense for a decade with the green dot. Like, I don't know.
You're probably right. It's like Tom Brady, right? Could he be a good offensive coordinator?
There's no doubt in my mind he could. He just wouldn't because it'd be a step down. He's making $30 million a year. Okay. No, that's what I'm saying is like it can't be a guy like Dion is such an exception to the rule.
Give me Greg Olsen. I don't need Tom Brady. I don't need the name. I don't need that. Can I have Greg Olsen? Can I have somebody who's better, who's not a name, who's like, but really good at his job because he's put in the time. Find me that.
I think they got to go outside the box if they are unable to get Saleh. I think they got to go outside the box, and it'd be interesting. I mean, it'd be cool if they brought in a guy like Bowman.
We're screwed.
Yeah, because he's taken everybody with Niners ties with him, and
not even that. We literally, it'd be like, okay, Staley, you're promoted.
Yeah,
because we have no one
the
left.
Guy who blew a 30-point playoff lead to Trevor Lawrence. You're in charge now.
I'd like to think he's the guy that he was the coordinator for the Rams, right? When they won the Super Bowl?
No, that was Kevin O'Connell.
No, Staley was defensive guy.
Oh, no, that was Raheem Morris, wasn't it?
Well, how the hell did he get the job with the Chargers? What was he doing?
Well, he took the Charger job in 2020, so who was he with in 2019?
Oh, then he was, yeah, not even close. Yeah, not even close. They won in 21, so yeah. Damn. I thought he did. Oopsies. Yeah, no.
No, he would be uninspiring as hell too. I wouldn't like that hire at all. We'll see what direction they go. I think they got to swing for the fences. If you're not going to get an elite guy, bring in someone who's just at least going to fire the players.
Swing an absolute out of your shoes, you could say, how much do you want, Bill?
Oh my God. Yeah, that's not going to happen. There's certain guys.
Would you rather be the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers under Kyle Shanahan or be the head coach in North Carolina?
I'd rather retire and play golf.
Okay, that's not an option. You can't. You spent all your money.
These guys, by the way, just complete tangent. As a guy who works every day, and you as a guy who works every day, if I get the opportunity to just be rich and retire and play golf and do nothing, that sounds better than any job in the world.
All these people who are super rich, I could never be a super rich person, not because I'm like got some more big giant morality thing where I'm opposed to the money. It's I'm too lazy. I would sell my patent so quick and retire and like give me my like whatever it was, even if it was like 20 million. They're like, I'd have advisors on my board saying, dude, this is going to be worth like $1 billion.
And I'd be like, I can retire now.
Like, can you wait like 10 years? This might be like $1 billion. I'd be like, nah, I'm good. I'm done.
Same.
I'm going to buy I'd buy the same house I have now. It'd be just paid off a lot quicker.
My dream in college was like, if I could be an NFL broadcaster, like doing Monday Night Football or doing whatever, or doing A's games or doing whatever. That's the dream. I'm like, you know what? My dream is now, and really has been my whole life, is get $50 million and do nothing for the last 40 years of my life. That sounds so much more fun than working. I don't care who you are. Like Belichick, I don't get guys like that where it's like, he's 74. Like, you could die at any minute. Why drive to the middle of nowhere in Alabama to convince a middle linebacker to sign with you instead of Wake Forest?
Did you see the thing that's like, oh, he hasn't even signed his contract yet?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
My thinking is like, dude, is he really going?
He might go to Dallas. When I saw that was my first thought, was he's leaving the door open in case Jerry gives him a Godfather offer. Like, say Jerry's like, 4 years, 80 million, come run the Cowboys. I think he would leave, but that's
hell yeah, he would. Yeah. The problem is, it's not even the Jaguars didn't even want him.
Yeah. No, his time is up. All right, let's close the pod. We try to keep these under an hour for our loyal listeners. Just a quick Vikings recap here. We extended Kevin O'Connell today, which is great news. Couldn't find any figures about the years and dollars, but the assumption is that he's now under team control through 2028. So essentially, the next 4 seasons, he will be our coach in Minnesota, barring a gigantic collapse. I think that's the right move. I think they're going to give an identical contract to Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, so we're going to have the same coach and GM going forward that have kind of taken us into a new era outside of Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman. So this is good news for Vikings fans. The better news for Vikings fan is Ben Johnson is now Chicago's head coach. Aaron Glenn is, by all reports, going to be the Jets head coach. These are all positive developments. Like, the Lions are getting gutted. The Vikings have their core going forward.
Are you sure?
What, you think Ben Johnson's going to be good in Chicago?
He might not be saying that if he gets Caleb to figure it out.
I just think Chicago's such a tire fire that
they might be.
Their ceiling is 10-7 or something next year. Maybe in 5 years they're good, or 4 years they're good. But
you're thinking by the time Minnesota's window is closing, like,
that's when they'll be good. I'm
seen
not
Aaron
worried.
Glenn. I've seen Aaron Glenn talk. Honestly, I could see why people like him. He seems like a very like genuine. Like I could see him
On Hard Knocks, he came off great.
And like even just the stuff I've seen him on, he seems like a great guy. I don't think anyone in the division's like, oh, thank God he's leaving.
Yeah.
I just don't.
You can replace a D coordinator fairly easily. You can't really replace.
That doesn't mean to think he's not going to be a good head coach. I mean, he might be because, I mean, you could be the leader for your head as head coach for your team if you have two really good coordinators.
I really want to see.
Someone. It's fun. I saw a couple things like, is John Harbaugh safe?
Yes.
You think some people are like, kind of the same thing.
I think Harbaugh and Tomlin.
We've been talking about Tomlin being like, how many years are we going to go 9-8 and just get wrecked in the wild card round?
Yeah.
And then Baltimore, like people were saying, like, how many times are we going to like get to the divisional round and then like lose? Not to say, obviously they're all-time head coach, like, but sometimes the class needs a new teacher, you know.
I agree, but I think both of those guys, especially with the way they run the program, they have earned they can just coach until they want to stop. You know, and I think I would not be surprised if Tomlin said
Bill Belichick got fired by the Patriots and he won 6.
Okay, but I mean the Patriot way, you know, the Belichick way.
I don't give a shit what the way is. If you win 6 Super Bowls, we're doing this way.
No. But I mean, the thing is like the final 3 or 4 seasons, whatever there, it started to emerge that like everybody hated him. Like everybody. Kraft hated him. Brady hated him. Everyone hated him. Find me somebody that hates Tomlin or Harbaugh. Like every player, with the exception of maybe CTE Antonio Brown. Like everybody loves both of those guys. So it's just like, I don't know. It's like with Pete Carroll. Like, yes, maybe a guy can like, if Pete Carroll was 72, of course his time was up. Belichick was 73, of course his time was up. Tomlin's still in his early 50s.
I saw Hard Knocks. John Harbaugh just absolutely just pumping iron.
He's 61, and I was like, damn, he's in good shape. He looks way better than Jim does, because I guess Jim's got a lot of health issues that we found out about recently. But I don't think
that was interesting. John Harbaugh. People were like, not people, just probably irrational fans, but
yeah, it's like damn, good for him. No, I think he's safe. I think Tomlin's safe. I think the only really dramatic one is for Niners fans, if Saleh goes to Jacksonville, that leaves you kind of without a coordinator. The Raiders' job is just a disaster. I don't think
we got some momentum. Ben Johnson, the Raiders. Like Ben Johnson ain't going to the Raiders.
Mm-hmm. Nobody wants that job. I cannot think of a name that would move the needle there. There was some buzz on Dion to Dallas, and then there was some possible Dion to the Raiders. I don't. No, they should hire one of those, wonder kid offensive, Mike McDaniel type.
If I was Brady, I would hire Belichick just so I could be his boss.
Nobody wants that job. Just a disaster. And you said this a couple weeks ago. In that division, you may never play a playoff game. If you get a 10-year contract as the Raiders head coach, and you're able to do all 10 years, you may play one playoff game. Like in a division with Mahomes and Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton and Bo Nix, I don't get it.
Was it Belichick? Somebody said if so-and-so goes to the Raiders, that's just the greatest division of coaches in the history of the NFL. I mean, it might already be. If the Raiders have a garden gnome at head coach, the other 3 carry so much weight.
Reed, Harbaugh, Belichick, and Payton. That would be insane. No, but my point before we close the pod is I see the events of the last week as positive for the Vikings. Extend the head coach, extend the general manager. The main rival in the division right now, Detroit, got gutted. I think their staff is going to get gutted beyond just the coordinators. You say Ben Johnson going to Chicago may be a net negative for the Vikings, given that the doormat of the division is going to be better now. I agree that Chicago is going to be better and that it's an excellent hire for them. I just think going from 4-13 this year, maybe 7-10 next year. Maybe they're 10-7 by the time that, you know, the Vikings are no longer a contender and have to rebuild or something. Like, I think for this JJ McCarthy window that starts next year, I'm comfortable with us being better than the Bears. I think we'll be better than the Packers. The question is, how far do the Lions fall? And I think they're going to fall a little bit with this loss last week, with the sour taste that Goff left in everybody's mouth after that game, and with them losing both coordinators. So I think things are looking up for the Vikings after one of the worst 2-week stretches in franchise history. So got to close it with a little bit of positivity. Thanks, everybody, for listening again. We'll be back for 2 more episodes this year. We got the conference championship recap, Super Bowl preview, and then our offseason preview when the Super Bowl is over. Thanks, everybody, for listening to another episode of the You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast. We will be back next week.